Hey, I'm Alex Guarnaschelli from the set of The Kitchen. Asparagus is a much-loved spring vegetable, and today I'm gonna pair it with a bright and herbaceous salsa to make a fantastic side dish, appetizer, snack. This is my roasted asparagus with Salsa Verde. Let's get started. I've got a bunch of fresh asparagus. These are kind of pencil asparagus, kind of thin like pencils. When I buy asparagus, I always look to make sure the stalks are firm and bright, minimal blemishes, not too much drying out on the bottom. I mean, I think of it like a bouquet of flowers when I'm buying it. So my oven is already preheated to 375 degrees, and I'm just gonna trim the bottoms, those kind of woody edges, off the bottom of the asparagus. Thinner asparagus like this, I don't bother peeling it. If they're really thick asparagus, really thick stalks, those I give a quick peel to. Now, for the asparagus, I'm just gonna spread them out on a baking sheet lined with parchment. You wanna put the asparagus on a tray so that they're somewhat in a single layer, and you wanna make sure none of the stalks are wobbly. That's a telltale sign that your asparagus are not fresh. These look really good. I'm going to drizzle just a little bit of oil on here for flavor, to give them a little fat when they're cooking, and also so that the salt we put on there clings to the oil on top. So just season them with salt, a little bit of pepper, all nice in a single layer, and we're gonna put these in the oven. I'm gonna cook these at 375 degrees until they're tender and slightly browned, about 5 to 8 minutes. In we go. Okay, so while the asparagus are roasting, we're gonna build our salsa verde that's gonna go on top. So for the salsa, let's start with the classic, just a tablespoon of red wine vinegar. And I'm sure you're thinking, you're a chef, do you really measure? And the truth is, I do. Sometimes I go off the rails, but I start out by measuring. 2 tablespoons of a grainy mustard. We want the texture from all those delicious mustard seeds inside the mustard. That's gonna add some texture to the sauce. The zest and juice of a lemon. So we have 2 forms of acid in there. We have that tablespoon of red wine vinegar, and now some lemon zest and juice. Notice how when I'm zesting, I move all around the lemon. I don't stay in one place. You want to extract that outer layer with that super yellow and that super floral flavor of the zest, and leave that bitter pith underneath behind. So don't grate all in one place. Move around a little bit. And if you have about a tablespoon of zest, that's plenty. And then simply cut the lemon in half and squeeze. Now, a lot of people use reamers and other tools. I hold it up like this in my hand, and I squeeze, and all the juice falls down, and all the pits just sit right here on top and don't fall in your bowl. So great. If your lemons are room temperature, even better, because the juice will come out more easily if they're not so cold. See that? 0 pits, 0 utensils. That's my kind of quick cooking. Okay, now to that, I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of olive oil to start. Now, olive oil in this recipe, sometimes you might wanna add a little bit more when you're finished and you're kind of tasting it. But for now, I start with a baseline of 3 tablespoons. I love raw garlic. I don't like a lot of it. It's not exactly what I would recommend for date night, but 1 clove of garlic minced, kind of meandering through everything, is really good, and we need it for this salsa. So just peel 1 clove, and we're just gonna mince it. Now, the more finely we mince this, the better, because honestly, then it'll just hide. You don't wanna be biting into a big chunk of garlic. All right, so just a paring knife. Cut down. I'm trying to think about how many cloves of garlic I've probably cut in my life. Maybe like 1,000,000. Then on the side here, you know you're onto something when you're mincing and you cut up the garlic and it looks like you haven't cut it. I do all that with a paring knife, and then I pull in the heavy artillery. I just use a chef knife. Just cut this really finely. My mom used a garlic press. That's perfectly acceptable. If you've had a long day, pour yourself a glass of wine and just press the garlic instead of mincing it. I'm just showing off. Okay, there's my minced garlic, right in there. So in here we have the mustard, the olive oil, the red wine vinegar. We're gonna put a little anchovy in there. 2 fillets is enough. You could just put 1, I'll never know. I'm not gonna come to your house and arrest you. But I do suggest too that anchovy just gives such a good little flavor, and it's a classic part of a salsa verde. A scant tablespoon of the oil from the jar of the anchovy. And if you don't love anchovies, get a jar of these and just use a little bit of the oil and skip the fillet part. Chop these up, just nice and fine. See, all this chopping distracts us, so we're not waiting impatiently by the oven for the asparagus to cook. We're keeping ourselves occupied while we wait for dinner. About 12 sprigs of parsley. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, yeah, that's 12. Fold. I love the stems of the parsley. Flat leaf parsley stems, so good. Fold, and just slice that right up. Now you get a lot of texture from all the things you're cutting up here. We get texture from the herbs, the stems, the anchovy. We get texture from those mustard seeds. So that parsley goes in there. We're gonna put some mint in here. This is the one herb where I don't like the taste of the stems. So while I say fold over and chop the stems of cilantro, tarragon, parsley, with things like mint and rosemary, it's just a no on the stems. So I'm gonna do about 4 stems worth of mint leaves. And the mint adds this really cool, bright, fresh note, really special with that grassy asparagus taste. And to me, it just says springtime. Roll all the mint leaves up, gather them all up, right? And that way, when you chop them, you're chopping so much more, right, at once. Go over it once. Don't go over and over your herbs with a knife. It just gets them brown. Better to have them be a little rustic than kind of beaten up by the knife. And then some tarragon, about 8 sprigs. What I do with tarragon is I just cut the woodsy bottom of the stems off because they're too chewy and tough. Take the upper 2/3, fold, and again, same process. Just slice. Tarragon has a slightly bittersweet flavor. It's sort of similar to fennel or anise. But don't be kind of scared off, because in a whole combo like this, particularly with other great ingredients like mustard and anchovies, tarragon is just fantastic. Okay. One last kind of surprise ingredient. I know you're thinking, really, Alex? A pickle? But yeah, we're gonna do it. We're going all in on this salsa verde. And again, you notice how all these condiments we have in our fridge have this beautiful brine. That's such a built-in flavor booster. I put a tablespoon of the pickle brine in. I often go through all my pickle brine before I eat all the pickles, so you know what I do? I fill the jar back up with water with a dash of vinegar, sit it in the fridge for a week or 2, and voila, I get a second dose of brine. The pickle, you know, it rolls around on the board, so the first thing you want to do is just cut a piece off so it sits flat and doesn't roll. And then just cut it into a few slices, let's say 4. Cut those in thirds. I can smell the asparagus, by the way. And then just slice that up. You just want everything to be sort of a similar size. It's nice when all the different ingredients offer their own little bit of texture to this. Pickles are kind of crunchy, but they're also juicy. So we've got the pickle brine in there. That in there. Now you really want to mix and kind of taste it. You want to figure out if you struck the right balance with all these ingredients, right? It should feel kind of chunky and herby, not very liquidy. This isn't really a vinaigrette. It's more like a real salsa. You can see those pickles going in there, the mustard seeds. Sometimes I make a double batch of this and pop it in the fridge for a week. It tastes even better. Really fresh, tiny taste. Sometimes I forget salt. You'd be surprised after all these ingredients, we really need a little salt. And I think that's about right. This is so good anywhere, on fish, on steak. It's time for us to check on our asparagus. Let's go get them. Ooh, yeah. Oh yeah. Can you hear them? They're sizzling. These are sizzling hot. Look at that. They're vibrant. Smells so good. I can smell they need salt. You know, you don't have to taste stuff to know it needs salt. You can smell it. Now that I said it, you're gonna go through your whole kitchen like, everything needs salt. Tiny bit of honey on here. We didn't add anything sweet to our salsa verde. Do you see how little I'm putting? This is maybe like 2 teaspoons, just a tiny drizzle. People will say, why is your asparagus so good? And you're gonna say, if you subscribe to the app and watch these videos, you'd know too. Tiny bit of this on here. Before I gather them all up and put them on a platter, you see that? This is so fun. This is just a fun dish to make. Can you see that? You could literally serve it like this. Put the pan on the table, see you later. If you're having like a cookout, something casual outside or whatever, look at that. And now, I'm gonna gather them all up. Ooh, yeah. And right on the plate. Oh, yeah. And then I can come at it with a little bit more of this salsa on top. If you just pile them on the platter and then spoon the salsa over them, those underlayers didn't get direct contact with the salsa. That's why I kind of put some on before I gathered it all up. Does this look like springtime to you? Okay. The proof is always in the taste, so let's taste it and see. Take a little piece off the edge here. The pop of the mustard seed, that little bit of honey right on the asparagus just paves the way for all these flavors in the salsa. The acid, the fresh herbs. This is my roasted asparagus with salsa verde. I hope you enjoy it.